Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is part 14 of the inventory tutorial series that I'm doing in this channel, and in this part we will create the chest blueprint and all the functions that we need to add random loot to this chest. So as you can see, we have the chest here. If we get close, we have the message, but in this video we will not do the part when we open the chest. We will only create the functions to add random loot. The part that we're going to open this chest is in the next video, where we're going to create the widgets to actually open this. But in this video we will create all the functions that we need to add random loot in this chest, in the inventory, right? But before, if you do like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't lose any new content. And without further ado, let's start. Okay, first I will import the chest model, and I'll leave a link in the description so you can download this chest if you want. So for this, I'm going to the assets folder, meshes. Here I will create a new folder, and I will name this folder interactables, something like this. I will open this and create a new folder for the chest. So let's create a new folder. I will name this chest. And let's open this, and here I will import all the models. So let me do this real quick. Okay, so as you can see, this is the chest model that I imported, and again I'll leave a link in the description so you can download this chest if you want. And here in the folders, I just created a folder for the materials and create the material and the material instance, and a folder for the textures, and here is the static mesh. So I will rename this to SM chest like this, and there we go. Now we have the chest model so we can use in the system. Okay, so let's start creating some logic for the loot. But first, let me tell you that I will not take into account the rarity of the items. I will just pick a random item from the database and put this item in the chest. I will not take into consideration the rarity of the items, okay? So first we need to create a function to get a random item from the database, and we need to do this inside the blueprint function library that we created. So for that, let's go to blueprints here, functions library, and let's open the BPFL items. Let's open this, and here we need to create a new function. So here in the functions, let's add a new one, and I will name this get random item from DB like this. And first we need to get all the rows identifiers that we have in the data table. So to do this, right click and type get data table row names. This one here, this will get all the row names for us. So let's connect the execution pin here, and we need to select a table. So just click on this and select the DB items like this. And there we go. Here we have the array with all the names of the rows, right? So now we need to get a random index from this array here, so we can get an item from this array. So to get this random int, this random number, let's first drag from this array and type length. Let's get the length of this array like this, and we need to subtract 1 from this integer. So let's drag and type minus. Let's get the subtract node and put 1 here in the second pin. And now we need to connect this in a random integer in range. So just right click and type random integer in range, this one here. The minimum is 0 and the max is this value here, like this. So now we can get a random item inside this this array here with this random node. So to do this, let's drag from this array and type get a copy, this one, and this needs an integer, so we have this integer here in the random integer that we are getting from this node. So just connect this here, and now we just need to get the data table row with this name here. So just right click and type get data table row, this one now, the get data table row. Let's click on this, let's connect the execution pin, and here we need to select the data table. So just click here and select the DB items, and we need to connect a row name, and this row name is this random one here. So just connect this here. There we go, and we have the outputs here, the row found, row not found, and the row itself, so the informations about the item, right? So we need to return this. So for that, right click and type return to add a return node like this, and we need 3 outputs from this. So let's, here in the outputs, let's add one. This first one will be the success like this, and this is a boolean, so just change the type to boolean here. Let's add another one, and this is the item ID that we found, so just type item ID like this, and this is a name, so change the type here to name, and we need one more for the item infos, so here just type item infos, and we need to change the type here to the struct of the items, so here just type struct items, and we have the struct here, just select this. There we go, let's compile and save, and now we just need to return here in the row found. Let's connect the row found on the execution pin here. In this case, if the row was found, let's return through on the success. The item ID is this one here that we are getting, right? So let's just connect this here like this. Let me just add a reroute. There we go, and of course we need to return the item infos, which is this out row here. So let's connect here. There we go. Now let's select this node and copy and paste to connect from the row not found. So let's connect this here. Of course, in this case, the success is false, and we don't need to return nothing in the item ID or the item infos. So there we go. Basically, this is the function. This function will return a random item from the database. And one last thing that we need to do here, just select the function, and here just check this peer option here. So just check this, and there we go. Let's compile and save. And now let's create the logic to use this function. Okay, so now let's go back to the folders here, and let's open the BPC inventory component, this one. So let's open this, and first we need to create a function to find an item in the inventory. We need this function to see if we already have this item in the inventory or not. So to do this, here in functions, let's add a new one, and I will name this function find item, something like this. And of course, this needs one input, so let's add this input here, and this is the item ID to find, of course. So let's name like this, and let's change the type here to name. There we go. So now let's create the logic here. So first we need to get the content, so let's drag the content array here in the graph like this. You can drag a reference like this by holding Ctrl on the keyboard and dragging the variable, and you have the variable here in the graph. And from this variable we need to do a loop, so let's drag from this and type for each loop like this. So we need to do something for each slot that we have inside this content array. And of course, for each slot, we need to see if the item that is inside the slot is the same one that we are trying to find, right? So to do this, let's break this array element. So let's drag from this and break the struct inventory slot like this, and here we have the informations about the slot. Now we need to see if this item ID is the same one of this item ID that we're trying to find, right? So to do this, just drag from this item ID here and type equal to get the equal operator like this. let me just drag this and connect in the second pin. And in the first pin, we need to get this item ID to find. But because we are inside a function, we can actually get this input without having to connect any wires here. We just need to right click and type item ID to find, and we have the variable here. Just get this and connect in the first pin like so. And of course, this is a boolean, so let's connect this in a branch like this. Let's connect from the loop body. And of course, if this is true, that means that we found the item, and if this is false, that means that this slot is empty or the item is not the same. But here we just need to do something in the true. So if this is true, we need to return this slot index here, the array index. So to do this, let's drag from the true here. Let's type return to add a return node like this, and we need to add two outputs here. The first one is success, so let's just change the name here to success. Let me put a question mark in the end. And of course, this is a boolean, so let's change the type to boolean. And we need another one for the slot index. So let's add one more here, and let's type slot index like this, and this needs to be an integer, so change the type here to integer like this. And of course, this value is this array index here, so let's just connect from this array index here in the slot index. And there we go. Now we need to do something in the completed part of this loop, because if this loop completes without returning here, that means that we don't have the item in this inventory, so we need to return false here. So again, drag from this completed here and type return to add the return node like this. And in this case, let's return false on the success and -1 in the slot index like this. And there we go. This is the function. This function will simply find an item in the inventory, right? So let's compile and save. And now let's create a function to add the random loot to the inventory. So let's do this. And I forgot, but here we need to return true on this success in the find item function. So here just check this success output here. Let's compile and save, and there we go. Okay, so to create this main function to add the loot to the inventory, to add a random loot to the inventory, first we need some variables. But before creating these variables, let me organize this a little bit. So I will put these three variables here in a category. So let's just select one variable here. And here in the category, I will type inventory. So let's create the inventory category like this. And let's put the slots count in the inventory category and the content in the inventory category as well. Okay, so now we need to create some variables to deal with the loot part of the inventory. So let's add one variable here. And this variable will be the minimum loot count. So let's change the name to min loot count like this, and this needs to be an integer, so just change the type to integer. Let's add one more, and this will be the max loot count like this, integer as well. Let's add one more variable, and this will be the min loot stack amount, something like this. This needs to be an integer as well, and one more for the max loot stack amount, something like this. And I will create one more variable here to so we can check if we want unique loot or not. So let's create this variable, and I will name this unique loot like this, and let's add let me just change the name here to loot like this. And of course, this needs to be a boolean actually, so just change to boolean here. Let me compile and save, and let's put these variables here in the loot category. So just select one variable here in the category. Let's type loot like this, and let's put the other variables in the loot category as well. So let me just put here like this. And there we go. This is basically it. This is all the variables that we need to create this. Let me compile and save. And now let's create the main function. Okay, so let's create this function. But first, let's put this find item function in the helper category. So just select this and change the category to helper like this. And let's create the function. So here in functions, let's add a new one. And I will name this add random loot, something like this. And first, we need to see if we want unique loot or not. So let's drag the unique loot variable here. Let's drag. And from this, let's connect in a branch like this. And here we have true or false, if we want unique loot or not. So first, let's deal with the false case here. So first, we need to do a loop. So right click and type for loop. Like this. Let's get this for loop here. Let's connect from the execution pin here from the false one. And we need the first index and the last index. And this is the minimum loot count and maximum loot count. So let's drag the min here. Let's connect on the first index and let's drag the max and again connect in the last index like this. So each time that this loop runs, we need to add a random item in the inventory. So we need to get this random item and we created this function here in the BPFL items. So now let's use this function. So we just need to right click and type get random item from the B and we have the function here. So as you can see, we have the success here. So let's use this variable, this output actually. So just drag and type branch to add in a branch. Let's connect from the loop body. And if this is true, that means that we successfully found the item in the database, so we can use this item. So now we just need to add this item in the inventory. And for this, we will actually use the same add item function that we created. So we can add the items that we collect in the world. We will use the same function. So let's just drag this add item function here like this. Let's connect from the true here in the execution pin. For the item ID, of course, is this one here that this get random item from the B node returns to us. So let's just use this in the item ID to add. And for the amount, we need to get a random stack amount. So to do this, let's right click and type random integer in range. This one here, and again for the min and max is this one here. Now the min loot stack amount and max loot stack amount. Let's drag the minimum here and connect in the minimum, and the maximum here, the max loot stack amount in the max here in this random integer in range. And now let's just connect this in this amount to add input of this add item node. And there we go. This is basically it. If we don't want unique items in this inventory, we are just adding random items in the inventory based on these values here: the min loot count, max loot count, min loot stack amount, and max loot stack amount. So now we just need to deal with the true case here, where we need unique loot. So we don't want more than one item of the same type in the inventory. So let's deal with this true now. Okay, so to do this, like in the false case, we need a loop. So let's right click here and type for loop like this. Let's get this for loop and let's connect from the true case here in the execution pin. And again, for the first index and last index of this loop is the min loot count. Let's get this, and the max loot count. So let's just get this and connect here. Let me just put this more here, this here, and let me add a reroute like this. And there we go. So basically we have the same loop here. So first we need two local variables to deal with this. So here in the local variables of this function, and a local variable is basically a variable that will be created when this function is called, and when the execution of this function finishes, this local variable will be destroyed, right? So let's add one here, and I will name this item to add, something like this. And of course, this needs to be a name. So let's change the type here to name. And let's add one more local variable. And this will be the item info actually. So let's just change the name here to item infos like this. And this needs to be, the type of this needs to be the struct items. So let's just change the type here to struct items. There we go. Let's change this, let's compile and save, and now we need to set this with the random item that we are getting with this node here. So again, let's right click and type get random item from the B, and if this is success, we need to set this variable. So let's drag from the success here and connect in a branch like this. From the loop body here, let's connect the execution pin, and if this is true, we need to set these variables here. So first, let's set the item to add, and to do this, we just need to hold Alt on the keyboard and drag the variable like this. Let's connect from the true, and of course the item ID. The item ID to add is this one here, the item ID. So let's connect here. And the item infos, let's do the same. So let's create a set node like this, and is this items info here. So let's just drag this and connect here like this. And there we go. So now let's continue creating this logic. So first we need to see if this item that we are getting from this random item here is already inside the inventory. So we need to check this. And to do this, we created a function for this, the function find item, this one. So let's drag this function here, and let's connect the execution pin like this. And of course, the item ID to find is this one here, this one that we are setting in this variable. So let's just drag from the output here of this set node, and let's connect here. Let me just add a reroute like this. And there we go. This function has this success output here that tells us if we found this item or not. So if we have this item inside the inventory or not. And in this case here, in the true case, when we need unique loot, we just need to add the items. We only need to add the items if we don't have these items. So we need to do this if this success is false, right? So let's drag from this and connect in a branch like this. And we just need to add the items if this is false. But we need to do one more check here. And we need to see if this item is stackable or not. And to do this, we have the item infos that we are setting here. Before doing this find item here, we are setting the items info, and we need to use this information here to see if the item is stackable. So to do this here, I will drag the variable item info, and here let's right click and split struct pin, so we have all the informations about the item. So let's drag from the stackable variable here, let's connect in a branch like this. And as I mentioned before, we need to do this from the false case in this find item here. So let's drag from the false and connect in a branch. And we have two options here. If this item is stackable or if it is not stackable, we need to deal with both cases here. So first, let's deal with the false case. So from the false here, we just need to add the item. So again, let's drag the add item function that we created like this. Let's connect from the false. The item ID is the item to add, this one here. So let's drag the variable and connect here in the item ID to add. And the amount in this case is just 1, because this item is not stackable in this case, right? So if the item is stackable, we need to add the item but with a random amount, and that's what we need to do now. So here, let's again drag the add item function like this. Let's connect from the true case here in the execution pin. The item ID to add again is this item to add local variable. So let's drag this and connect in the item ID to add. And for the amount, in this case that the item is stackable, we need to get a random stack amount. So to do this, let's right click and type random integer in range like this. Let's of course connect the return value in the amount to add, and for the min value and max value is these ones here, the min loot stack amount and the max loot stack amount. So let's just drag this and connect in the minimum and the max in the max like this, and there we go. Now we have the function. So if we want unique loot, we are adding this up here. So we are checking if we already have this item inside the inventory, and if we don't have this item, we are adding the item depending if the item is stackable or not. And if we don't want if actually we want random items, if we don't want unique, here we are adding the items without checking if we already have the items, because this unique loot is false, right? So this is the function. This function now will add random items to the inventory depending on these values here that we can set inside the chest blueprint that we're gonna create, right? So there we go. Let's compile and save, and now we just need to call this function when we initialize the inventory, right? So let's do this. Okay, so to call this function to add the random items in the inventory is really simple. We just need to open the initialize inventory function. So let's open this, and here we already have this suite in the inventory type. So if this inventory is the player inventory, we are setting this in the HUD, right, in the inventory widget, and here we have the loot case. So if this inventory is the type of loot, we need to add the random loot to the inventory. So to do this, we just need to get the add random loot function. So let's just drag this here and connect from the loot case in this suite. So let's just connect here, and there we go. This is all that we need to do. If the type of this inventory is loot, this will automatically add the random items inside this inventory. So there we go. Let's compile and save. And now we just need to create the chest blueprint, actually the loot chest blueprint, so we can add the chest in the world. And in the next video, we will see if this is working. So let's create the blueprint now. Okay, so to create this blueprint, let's go back to the folders, and here let's go to the interactable folders, and here I will create a new folder. So right click and create a new folder, and I will name this folder interactables, something like this. And let's open this folder, and here I will create a new folder for the chests like this. Let's open this folder, and here let's create the blueprint. So right click, go to blueprint class and create a blueprint that is a child of the interactable class. So let me cancel this here. If we go back to the interactables here, as you can see, we have the BPM interactable master class. So we need to create the chest as a child of this class here. So again, let's open these folders here, chests, and here let's go to blueprint class, and here in all classes, just search for BPM and select the BPM interactable class. Let's select this and click on select, and I will name this BP loot chest like this. Let's open this, and here let's add the chest model. So to do this, it's really simple. Here in components, we just need to add a static mesh. So just type static mesh here. Let's add one, and I will name this SM chest, something like this. And of course, for the static mesh here, just click on this and select the chest model like this. This is really big, so let's just reduce a little bit the size. Let me do like this. I think this is okay, and of course let's rotate this so the model faces the X direction here like this. And there we go. Let's compile and save. And now we just need to add the inventory component to this. So here in the components, let's add the BBC inventory. I will leave the name as it is. And here in the details, we just need to set some configurations. So for the inventory type, of course, let's change this to loot because this is the loot. We need to set a slots count. So for this chest, let's put maybe 10 slots, something like this. And for the min loot count, of course, let's put this as 1. For the max loot count, let's put this on maybe 5. So this chest here, the inventory will have a random number from 1 to 5, right? And in the stack amount here, let's put 1 in the minimum, and in the maximum, let's put maybe 10. So each stack will have a random number from 1 to 10. And for now, let's leave as the unique loot as false like this. So let's compile and save. Okay, and I forgot, but if you go to BP loot chest or the class default here, we have the interaction message. So let's put here open chest, something like this. So the final message will be E to open chest. So let's compile and save. Okay, so let's go back to the map here and let's put this chest in the world so we can see. And this is really big, so let's change the size again. Let me put maybe something like this. Let's compile and save and see. Let me just increase a little bit. Something like this. Let's compile and save. There we go. So we have the chest here. Let me just put this close to the wall. Like this. And if we hit play now, we should see the interaction message. So let's see if this is working. Let me hit play. And if we get close to the chest, there we go, E to open chest. So there we go, now we have a loot chest with random items. And this is it for this video. So we created the functions to add random items to the chest, and we created the chest blueprint. And in the next video, we will create the UI to open this chest and see what items is inside this chest. So we will create the widgets in the next video. So if you do like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't lose any new content. And as always, thank you for watching, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next video.